Danny Pierce stood on the bridge of his ship. The Valiant moved through space at incredible speed. Stars stretched into long lines outside the windows. Everything looked normal. His crew worked quietly at their stations. The soft sounds of the ship filled the air around them. Danny was the captain. He had been in charge of the Valiant for 3 years now. The ship was new, one of Earth's best military vessels. It had powerful weapons and strong shields. The crew was good at their jobs. Danny trusted them completely. They were on patrol duty. This area of space was far from Earth. The patrol was supposed to be routine. Nothing exciting ever happened out here. Danny expected another boring day of checking star systems and monitoring communications. Kate Morrison worked at the communication station. She was young, only 25 years old, but she was very good at her job. She could speak and understand many alien languages. The translation computers helped, but Kate had a natural talent for understanding others. Kate suddenly turned around. Her face was pale. She looked worried. Danny noticed immediately. He had learned to read his crew's expressions. When Kate looked worried, something was wrong. Kate spoke carefully. Her voice was steady, but Danny could hear the concern in it. She told him they were picking up a distress signal. The signal was not from a human ship. It was alien. The translation computer was working to understand the message. Danny walked over to her station. His boots made no sound on the metal floor. He looked at the screens showing the signal information. The computers analyzed the data quickly. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for 5 years now. In that time, they had learned many things. The galaxy was much more crowded than anyone had imagined. Danny asked how far away the signal was coming from. Kate checked her instruments. She told him it was about 4 light years away. At maximum speed, they could reach it in a few hours. The signal was coming from a ship, not a planet. Someone was in trouble out there in space. Kate pressed her hand to her ear. She was listening to the translation as it came through. Her eyes went wide. She told Danny that the ship was under attack. Someone was hurting them. Jacob Hayes was the first officer. He was Danny's second in command. Jacob stepped forward from where he stood near the tactical display. He reminded Danny about the regulations. The rules said they had to report this to Fleet Command. Then they had to wait for instructions. Danny knew Jacob was right. The rules were clear. But Danny also knew that Fleet Command was 3 days away. If they sent a message and waited for orders, it would take too long. The people sending that distress signal would be dead before help could arrive. Danny asked what species they were dealing with. Kate worked her controls for a moment. The computer identified them as Valorian. The Valorians were members of the Confederation of Allied Worlds. They were peaceful traders. They were known for being good at building things in zero gravity. They were not warriors. Danny asked about the attackers. Kate listened to more of the message. The translation was not perfect, but she got the main points. The attackers were raiders. There were 3 ships. They had heavy weapons. The raiders had already damaged the Valorian ship. The engines were destroyed. Now the raiders were getting ready to board the ship and take everything valuable. Danny walked back to his command chair. He sat down and thought hard. The Valiant was a destroyer-class vessel. It had good weapons and strong shields. The crew was well trained. But could one ship fight against 3 raiders? He thought about Earth. He thought about his grandfather's stories. Before humans met aliens, people wondered if they were alone in the universe. They dreamed about meeting other intelligent beings. They imagined a peaceful galactic community. Those dreams had come true, but reality was harder than the dreams. The galaxy was dangerous. There were good species and bad ones. There were traitors and warriors. There were helpers and thieves. Humans had learned this quickly. Jacob spoke again, bringing Danny back to the present moment. Danny looked at his crew. He saw Kate at communications. She was young but talented. He saw Jacob, his friend from the academy. Jacob was steady and reliable. He saw Alan Brooks at the tactical station. Alan was a former Marine with combat experience. He saw Patricia Cole, the chief engineer. She could make the engines do amazing things. They were all looking at him. They were waiting for his decision. Danny was the captain. The choice was his to make. Danny made his choice. He told Kate to send an emergency message to Fleet Command. The message should explain that they detected a distress signal. The message should say they were going to respond. Then he told the helm officer to set a course for the signal. He ordered maximum speed. Jacob started to speak. He wanted to point something out. But Danny interrupted him gently. He told Jacob that he knew about the regulations. But those people did not have 3 days to wait. They might not have 3 hours. The Valiant was going to help them. Jacob nodded slowly. He understood. He said he would tell the crew to prepare for possible combat. Everyone needed to be ready. The Valiant turned in space. Its powerful engines pushed it faster and faster. The ship headed toward the distress signal. Danny felt the weight of command on his shoulders. He had made his choice. Now he had to deal with whatever came next. Danny asked Kate if she could send a message to the Valorian ship. Kate said yes, she could do that. Danny told her to send a simple message. Tell them that help is coming. Tell them to hold on. Tell them not to give up. Kate sent the message. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. The message flew through space at the speed of light. It would reach the Valorian ship in a few hours. Danny hoped they would still be alive to receive it. The bridge became busier. People checked their stations. They ran tests on weapons and shields. They made sure everything was working perfectly. The Valiant might have to fight soon. Everyone needed to be ready. Danny watched the countdown timer. It showed how long until they reached the coordinates. 3 hours and 42 minutes. It felt like a very long time. But it also felt too short. He used the time to think about tactics. How should they approach the situation? What would the raiders do when they saw a human ship? Humans were new to the galaxy. Most alien species did not know much about them yet. Some called humans Deathworlders. They said Earth was a dangerous planet. They could not understand how humans survived there. The heavy gravity, the violent weather, the dangerous animals. To aliens, Earth seemed like a nightmare world. But Danny thought that maybe being from a dangerous world was an advantage. Humans were tough. They were used to fighting and struggling. They did not give up easily. Maybe that would help today. The hours passed slowly. The crew stayed focused. They ate quick meals at their stations. They double-checked every system. Patricia called from engineering. She told Danny the engines were running perfectly. She could give him full combat power when he needed it. Alan ran combat simulations. He practiced targeting multiple enemies. The tactical computer showed him different scenarios. He studied each one carefully. He wanted to be ready for anything. Finally, the countdown reached 10 minutes. Danny ordered the crew to battle stations. Red lights came on throughout the ship. Alarms sounded briefly. Every crew member moved to their combat position. The Valiant was ready. Danny took a deep breath. In a few minutes, they would arrive. They would see the situation for themselves. They would face the raiders. Danny hoped his decision to come here was the right one. But even if it was dangerous, even if they faced terrible odds, he knew he had made the only choice he could live with. Someone needed help. Danny and his crew were going to answer that call. That was what humans did. That was who they were. They did not ignore people in trouble. They did not calculate the risks first. They saw someone who needed help and they acted. The timer reached 0. Space twisted around the ship. The Valiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Stars appeared in their normal positions, and right in front of them, they saw the scene they had come to find. 3 raider ships surrounded a damaged Valorian vessel. The battle was about to begin. The Valiant appeared in normal space. Danny gripped his command chair as the ship shook. The sudden stop from faster-than-light speed always felt rough. The inertial dampeners worked hard to keep everyone safe. After a moment, the shaking stopped. Danny ordered Alan to give him a situation report. Alan was the tactical officer. His job was to understand the battlefield. His fingers moved quickly over his console. Information appeared on the screens. Alan confirmed 3 hostile vessels. The raiders had positioned themselves around the Valorian ship. They were trying to cut through the hull with energy weapons. The Valorian ship looked dead. Its engines were dark. Life support was running on emergency power only. Danny asked about the raider ships. What class were they? What weapons did they have? Alan studied his screens carefully. The design was unknown. Each ship was about 100 meters long. They had strange asymmetrical shapes. Their weapons were active. The sensors showed mostly energy-based weapons. The raiders were smaller than the Valiant, but there were 3 of them. Danny looked at the tactical display. The 3 raider ships formed a triangle around the Valorian vessel. They were positioned like wolves around wounded prey. It was a smart formation. They could support each other. They could fire from multiple angles. Any ship trying to help the Valorians would have to face all three raiders at once. Danny told Kate to hail the raiders. She should use all frequencies. Try to get their attention. Kate opened communication channels. Her equipment sent out signals in many different ways. Danny spoke clearly. He identified himself as Captain Danny Pierce of the Terran defense ship Valiant. He told the raiders they were attacking a ship protected by the Confederation. He ordered them to stop their hostile actions. He told them to leave the area immediately. For a long moment, nobody responded. Then the speakers crackled. A harsh, ugly voice came through. The translation software struggled to make sense of it. The voice was aggressive and mocking. The voice called them a human vessel. It said humans were far from home. It said this prey belonged to the raiders. The voice told them to leave now or die with the Valorians. Danny looked at Jacob. His first officer shook his head. The response was not surprising. Raiders did not usually listen to reason. But Danny had to try diplomacy first. That was the proper way. Danny gave them one more chance. He told them to withdraw peacefully. He said no one needed to get hurt. It was a final warning. The raiders answered with action instead of words. All three ships turned toward the Valiant. Their weapons charged up. Energy readings spiked across all the raider vessels. They were preparing to attack. Alan reported that the raiders were targeting them. His voice was tense but steady. He recommended raising shields and preparing to fight back. Danny gave the order.
Shields up.
Battle stations. His voice echoed through the entire ship. Alan should target the lead vessel. Jacob should coordinate the point defense systems. Kate should send a message to the Valorian ship. Let them know help had arrived. The bridge changed completely. Screens flickered on showing damage control stations all over the ship. The quiet hum of the engines became a deep, powerful roar. Patricia pushed the reactors to combat power. Red alert lights turned everything crimson. Kate received a response from the Valorian captain. She reported that the Valorians were grateful, but they were also warning the Valiant. The raiders were more dangerous than they looked. These raiders had been attacking ships in this sector for months. They knew how to fight. Danny acknowledged the warning. He asked Alan for his tactical assessment. Alan studied the enemy movements carefully. The raiders were spreading out. They were trying to flank the Valiant. These were classic pack tactics. The raiders had definitely done this before. Danny decided to show them something new. He told the helm to bring the ship around. Set heading 090. Put the Valiant between the raiders and the Valorian ship. Alan should prepare to fire on his mark. They would show these raiders what happened when prey fought back. The Valiant surged forward. Its powerful engines drove it straight into the raider formation. It was an aggressive move. Most Confederation species used defensive tactics, but Danny had studied Earth's military history. Sometimes the best defense was attacking first. The lead raider fired first. Beams of energy shot through space toward the Valiant. The ship's shields glowed bright blue as they absorbed the attack. The impact made the ship shake slightly. Alan reported shields holding at 92%. The raider weapons were powerful but not overwhelming. The Valiant could handle them. Danny ordered return fire. All forward plasma cannons should fire. The Valiant responded with devastating force. Streams of superheated plasma erupted from multiple weapon ports. All the plasma converged on the lead raider. The enemy shields flickered and then failed completely. The plasma tore through hull plating. It left glowing, melted gouges across the ship's surface. Alan reported a direct hit with satisfaction in his voice. The enemy shields were down. They had significant hull damage. The lead raider was breaking off. It was retreating from the fight, but the other two raiders were already moving. They came at the Valiant from opposite sides. Their energy weapons flared. This time the attacks came from multiple angles at once. Alan reported shields down to 74%. The raiders were coordinating their fire. They were working together to overwhelm the Valiant's defenses. Danny watched the tactical display. His mind worked through options quickly. The raiders were experienced fighters. They knew how to work as a team. But they were used to fighting merchant ships. They were used to easy prey that could not fight back properly. Danny asked Patricia if she could give him emergency power to the forward shields. The engineer's voice came through the communication system. She could give him a 30-second burst of extra power, but after that the generators would need time to cool down. Danny said that was all he needed. 30 seconds would be enough. He told Alan to target both remaining ships. Fire everything they had. The Valiant lit up like a miniature sun. Plasma cannons fired. Missiles launched. Point defense lasers tracked targets. Every weapon system fired at the same time. It was overwhelming firepower. Humanity had developed these weapons over centuries of warfare on Earth. They had refined them with alien technology. The raiders had never seen anything like it. They were not prepared for such concentrated firepower from a single ship. One raider took a missile directly to its engine section. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Debris scattered in all directions. The second raider tried to evade. It turned hard and accelerated. But it was not fast enough. Plasma fire chewed through its shields. The superheated streams carved deep into the hull. Alan reported 2 hostiles disabled or destroyed. The third raider, the damaged leader, was retreating at maximum speed. It was running away as fast as its damaged engines could carry it. Danny allowed himself a small smile. He told Alan to let the third ship go. They did not need to chase it. Kate should get him a channel to the Valorian ship. A moment later, a Valorian face appeared on the main screen. The alien's features showed obvious relief. The Valorian captain looked like he could hardly believe they were still alive. The Valorian captain thanked Danny. He said they could not thank the humans enough. They had given up hope. They thought they were going to die. Danny told them they were welcome. He asked if they needed help with repairs. The Valiant had medical teams standing by. If any Valorian crew members were injured, human doctors could help. The Valorian captain said they had several injured crew members, but their medical bay was still working. However, their engines were completely destroyed. They could not repair them with the equipment they had. They would need to be towed to the nearest station. Danny understood. He told them the Valiant would stand by until more help arrived. He reminded the Valorian captain of his earlier message. Danny had told them to hold on. It looked like they had done exactly that. As the transmission ended, Jacob stepped closer to Danny's chair. He spoke quietly. They had just made something very clear. Humans did not ignore distress calls, but they had also announced something else. They had shown every raider in this sector that humanity was dangerous. Humans were not easy prey. Danny nodded slowly. That was good. Maybe word would spread through the criminal networks. Maybe fewer innocent people would be attacked. Maybe raiders would think twice before targeting ships in human patrol areas. He looked at the stars beyond the view screen. Somewhere out there, 3 more human ships were racing toward their position. Fleet Command had sent reinforcements. The galaxy was about to learn something important about the newest members of the Confederation. Earth might be a relative newcomer to galactic politics. But humanity brought thousands of years of hard lessons with them. Lessons about survival. Lessons about warfare. Lessons about standing up for those who could not defend themselves. The galaxy was about to get an education in what it meant when humans called themselves defenders. 3 hours passed after the battle. 3 more human ships arrived at the coordinates. The Resolute came first. Then the Defender and Guardian arrived together. Captain Danny Pierce stood in the conference room of the Valiant. He faced holographic images of his fellow captains. Captain Linda Harper commanded the Resolute. She was a veteran officer with silver-streaked hair. Her sharp eyes seemed to notice everything. She spoke first. She had reviewed the tactical logs from the battle. The work was impressive, she said, but it was also incredibly risky. 3 against 1 were not good odds. Danny acknowledged the risk, but waiting was not an option. The Valorian crew would have been dead or captured by the time proper authorization came through. Sometimes you had to act fast. Captain Stephen Price commanded the Defender. He was a broad-shouldered man with a military bearing. He nodded approvingly. Sometimes you had to trust your instincts. Danny had done what needed to be done. That was the mark of a good captain. The third captain was Nina Rodriguez of the Guardian. She was the youngest of the 4 captains. But her record showed she was highly competent. She leaned forward with a concerned expression. What worried her was what came next. Danny had sent a clear message to the raiders in this sector. They would respond somehow, Danny spoke firmly. Let them respond. The Confederation had been dealing with these raiders for months. They had followed protocols that clearly were not working. Maybe it was time for a different approach. Linda looked thoughtful. Danny was proposing they actively hunt the raiders down, not just respond to attacks but seek them out. Danny clarified his idea. He was proposing they protect shipping lanes in this sector. If raiders showed up, they would deal with them decisively. Eventually, the raiders would learn to avoid areas where humans patrolled. The criminals would go somewhere else, Stephen chuckled. He asked if Danny knew what other species called humans, Deathworlders. They thought Earth was one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Heavy gravity, extreme weather, abundant predators. They could not understand how humans survived, let alone thrived. Danny admitted he had heard the term. Some of the Confederation delegates used it like an insult. They said it with a mixture of fear and disrespect. Nina suggested they should embrace the term. The galaxy had spent centuries developing diplomatic solutions to problems, but sometimes problems required direct action. That was something humans understood very well. Maybe being Deathworlders was actually an advantage. A communication alert interrupted their discussion.
Kate's voice came through the speakers.
They were receiving a transmission from Admiral Green. Danny told Kate to put the Admiral through to the conference room. Admiral Green's holographic image appeared, joining the other captains. She looked tired but pleased with the outcome. The Admiral told them she had been in communication with the Confederation Council and the Valorian government. They were extremely grateful for the intervention. The Valorian captain had filed a formal commendation for Captain Pierce and the crew of the Valiant. Danny thanked her. Then he asked what their orders were. What did Fleet Command want them to do next? The Admiral said that was the interesting part. The Confederation had made a request. They wanted human ships to maintain an increased presence in this sector. Word of the engagement had already spread through diplomatic channels. Several other species had expressed interest in having humans patrol their trade routes. Linda raised an eyebrow. They wanted to hire humans as security, like bodyguards for the whole sector? The Admiral explained it was not exactly hiring. But the Confederation members were willing to provide fuel, supplies, and repair facilities. In exchange, human ships would maintain regular patrols. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement. Earth gained resources and strategic positions. The Confederation gained protection. Stephen looked at his fellow captains. It sounded like they were becoming the galaxy's peacekeepers. That was a significant role for a species that had only been in space for 5 years. Nina corrected him. They were becoming more like the galaxy's deterrent, but she could live with that role. Better to be feared by criminals than ignored by everyone. Admiral Green continued with more information. The Confederation had approached Earth about establishing a joint training facility. They wanted their security forces to learn human tactics and combat strategies. It seemed the reputation as Deathworlders was becoming an asset rather than a concern. Danny thought about that carefully. Humanity had spent 5 years learning from the Confederation. They had absorbed alien technology and knowledge. Now it seemed the exchange was becoming more balanced. Humans had something valuable to offer beyond just trade goods and cultural exchanges. Danny asked respectfully if they were ready for this responsibility. Humans were still newcomers to the galactic community. Taking on a security role was a big responsibility. It would change everything. Victoria's expression became serious. She reminded Danny that humanity had been dealing with threats for its entire existence. Humans had fought wars. They had survived catastrophes. They had built a civilization despite countless challenges. The galaxy needed that experience. The galaxy needed beings willing to stand up and fight when necessary. Earth was ready. The question was whether Danny was ready to lead the way. Danny looked at the faces of his fellow captains. They were all watching him. They were waiting for his response. He thought about the Valorian crew. 73 beings who would have died if the Valiant had not intervened. He thought about all the other ships out there. Merchant vessels traveling through space. Families moving between worlds. Scientists exploring new systems. All of them vulnerable to predators who saw them as easy prey. Someone needed to stand between the innocent and the predators. Why not humans? They had been doing it on Earth for thousands of years. Protecting the weak from the strong. Standing up to bullies. Fighting for what was right. Danny told the Admiral they were ready. The Valiant would continue patrols in this sector. If other raiders showed up, they would deal with them. Earth could count on him. Linda nodded firmly. The Resolute would support him. She was in this for the long term. Stephen added his agreement. The Defender as well. His ship and crew were ready. Nina finished the commitments. The Guardian would join them. All 4 ships would work together. Admiral Green smiled with satisfaction. She told them this was good news. She would inform the Confederation of their decision. Then she addressed Danny directly. He had started something today, something important. They needed to make sure they finished it properly. The Admiral ended the transmission. As the Admiral's image faded, the four captains looked at each other. They were making history. Danny realized this moment would be remembered, not through grand declarations or political speeches, but through simple action. A distress call answered. Lives saved. A reputation earned. The galaxy was learning about humanity. They were learning that humans were more than just another species. They were allies worth having. They were enemies worth avoiding. They were protectors worth calling when trouble came. Linda spoke thoughtfully. She wondered how long it would take for their reputation to spread. How many raiders would hear about what happened here? Stephen thought it would be fast. Criminal networks had their own communication systems. Word would spread quickly through the underworld. Raiders talked to each other. They shared information about dangerous targets, Nina agreed. Within a month, every pirate in this sector would know about the human ships. They would know what happened to those who attacked innocents in human patrol zones. Danny hoped they were right. The more raiders who avoided this area, the fewer battles they would have to fight. The goal was not to destroy every criminal in the galaxy. The goal was to make crime unprofitable in their patrol zones. If raiders knew they would face serious resistance, they would go elsewhere. The four captains discussed patrol routes and communication protocols. They divided the sector into zones. Each ship would cover a specific area. They would maintain contact with each other. If one ship encountered trouble, the others could respond quickly. It was the beginning of something new. Not just for these four ships, but for all of humanity. Earth was stepping into a new role in the galaxy. They were becoming defenders, protectors, the ones that others called when they needed help. The meeting ended. Each captain returned to their own ship. Danny walked back to the bridge of the Valiant. His crew looked at him expectantly. He told them they were staying in this sector. They would be patrolling regularly. They were now officially responsible for the safety of this region of space. The crew accepted this news with quiet determination. They understood what it meant. More patrols, more time away from Earth, more chances of combat. But they also understood the importance. They were making a difference. They were saving lives. Danny sat in his command chair and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, other ships were traveling safely because of what happened today. Families were reaching their destinations. Merchants were delivering their goods. Scientists were making discoveries. All because one crew had answered a distress call. It was a good feeling. A sense of purpose. Danny and his crew were exactly where they needed to be, doing exactly what they should be doing. They were Deathworlders, and they were using their strength to help others. That was something. 3 months had passed since the Valiant saved the Valorian ship. The sector had changed dramatically. Human ships now patrolled regular routes through the area. Merchant vessels traveled safely. Trade flourished. Raider attacks had dropped significantly. Captain Danny Pierce stood on the bridge of the Valiant. But today was different. His ship was not alone in space. Around him were 15 other human vessels. They had gathered at a new space station called Harmony. The station was a joint project between Earth and the Confederation. It served as the headquarters for security operations in the sector. Kate announced an incoming transmission from the station. Danny told her to put it on the main screen. Ambassador Kelvin appeared. Behind him, Danny could see representatives from many different species. They were gathered in what looked like a formal assembly hall. Ambassador Kelvin spoke formally. On behalf of the Confederation Council, he was extending an official invitation. Captain Pierce was requested at a ceremony. The ceremony would honor the human contribution to galactic security. Danny exchanged glances with Jacob. He told the ambassador they were simply doing their duty. Nothing more than that. The ambassador acknowledged this, but he said their interpretation of duty had revolutionized how the Confederation approached security. Raider activity had dropped not just in human patrol zones. It had decreased across multiple sectors. Word had spread throughout criminal networks. Attacking innocent ships brought swift response from human forces. Kate whispered to Alan that they had become the galaxy's nightmare for criminals. Alan grinned and said he could definitely live with that reputation. Danny transported to the station along with Jacob and Kate. The ceremony hall was magnificent. It was a vast space with windows showing the stars and the assembled fleet beyond. Representatives from over 50 species filled the chamber. Their varied forms showed the incredible diversity of the galaxy. Admiral Victoria Green was already there. She stood beside several officials from Earth's government. She smiled as Danny approached. She commented on the impressive turnout. Danny admitted he had not expected all this attention when he responded to that distress call. It seemed like such a simple decision at the time. Victoria told him he had done something remarkable. He reminded everyone that laws and protocols meant nothing without enforcement. The Confederation had spent centuries trying to maintain peace through diplomacy alone. They had forgotten that sometimes peace required people willing to fight for it. The ceremony began. Ambassador Kelvin addressed the entire assembly. He spoke about the Valorian ship. He spoke about the 73 lives saved. He explained how one human captain's decision had sparked a transformation in galactic security. Kelvin talked about the term Deathworlder. He admitted it was true that Earth was harsh by Confederation standards. But they had learned something important. That harsh world had bred a species of remarkable qualities. Humans had courage and determination. Most importantly, they had compassion. They did not ignore cries for help. They did not calculate costs before acting. They saw someone in danger and they responded immediately. The ambassador turned to Danny. He asked him to step forward into the center of the chamber. Danny moved to where Kelvin indicated. He felt hundreds of eyes upon him. Beings from all over the galaxy were watching. Kelvin presented him with a crystal medallion. Its surface was etched with symbols representing all the member species of the Confederation. The medallion caught the light and sparkled beautifully. Kelvin explained this was the Confederation Star. It was their highest civilian honor. The award went to those who exemplified the ideals they all tried to uphold. Danny had earned it through his actions that day, but also through the example he had set in the months since. He had shown them all what it meant to be a protector. The chamber erupted in applause. The sound was strange because it came from dozens of different species. Each one showed approval in their own way. Some clapped. Some made clicking sounds. Some hummed. Together it created a unique symphony of celebration. Danny felt a surge of emotion. He felt pride, certainly, but he also felt the weight of responsibility. When the applause died down, Danny spoke. He thanked the ambassador, but he wanted to make something clear. He had not acted alone. His crew deserved this honor. The crews of all the human ships in the fleet deserved it. Every human serving in space operations deserved recognition. They were a team. That was something humans learned on Earth. Alone, they were vulnerable. Together, they were strong. He looked out at the assembled delegates. The galaxy was vast and dangerous. There would always be those who preyed on the weak. But there would also be those willing to stand up to them. Humanity wanted to be part of that second group. They wanted to help build a galaxy where merchant ships could travel safely. A galaxy where families did not have to fear raiders. A galaxy where calling for help actually meant something. Danny continued speaking. Yes, humans were Deathworlders. Their planet made them tough. It made them survivors. But Earth also taught them to understand the value of cooperation. It taught them about standing together against threats. They brought that understanding to the stars, and they offered it to anyone who needed it. Later, after the ceremony concluded, Danny found himself at an observation deck. Kate, Jacob, Alan, and Patricia were with him. They looked out at the human fleet. 16 ships now represented Earth's commitment to galactic security. It was an impressive sight. Kate spoke softly. It was hard to believe everything started with one distress call. Just 3 months ago. It seemed like a lifetime had passed since then. Jacob replied that every great change started with a single decision. Captain Pierce decided to answer that call. Everything else followed from that choice, Alan chuckled. They had become the galaxy's guard dogs. It was not a bad role for a species that used to think it was alone in the universe. Humanity had come a long way. Patricia pointed to a Valorian ship docked nearby. She had heard something interesting. The Valorians were building a monument on their homeworld. A statue commemorating the day humanity came to their rescue. They were calling it the Monument of Hope. Danny smiled. Hope was a good word for it. When humans left Earth, they hoped to find friends among the stars. They hoped to make a difference. It looked like they were doing both. He thought about the future. More human ships were being built back in Earth's orbital shipyards. The joint training facility was teaching Confederation forces human tactics. Trade agreements were being signed between Earth and dozens of worlds. Cultural exchanges were happening. Scientific collaborations were producing new discoveries. Humanity was no longer on the outside looking in. They were full partners in the galactic community. But more than that, humans had found their special role. They were not just traders, though they could trade. They were not just diplomats, though they could negotiate. They were not just scientists, though they could research. Their greatest contribution was simpler and more fundamental. When someone called for help, humans answered. That was who they were. That was what made them special in the galaxy. Danny told his crew it was time to go. They had patrol routes to plan. The Defender had reported possible raider activity 2 sectors over. They needed to make sure they were ready if backup was needed. As they left the observation deck, Kate looked back at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, someone might need help tomorrow, or next week, or next month. And now, thanks to the choices made by one ship's crew, they could count on a response. They could count on humans answering their call. The crew returned to the Valiant. The ship prepared to depart from Station Harmony. Danny sat in his command chair and looked at his crew. They had been through a lot together. They had fought battles. They had saved lives. They had earned the respect of the entire galaxy. But Danny knew this was just the beginning. There would be more distress calls, more raiders to face, more innocent people to protect. The work was never done. As long as there were predators in the galaxy, there needed to be protectors. Humanity had accepted that role. Not because they wanted glory or power, but because it was the right thing to do. Because they understood that with strength came responsibility. Because they had learned on Earth that the strong should protect the weak, not exploit them. The Valiant undocked from the station. Its engines powered up. The ship moved away into open space. Around it, the other human vessels did the same. The fleet dispersed to their various patrol routes, each ship going where it was needed. Danny watched the stars stream past. He thought about all the changes that had happened. 3 months ago, he was just another captain on routine patrol. Now he was a symbol of humanity's new role in the galaxy. It was strange how quickly life could change, but some things never changed. The basic choice between right and wrong, the decision to help or to ignore, the courage to act when others hesitated, those things were eternal. They were what defined a person's character. Danny had made his choice 3 months ago. He chose to answer a distress call. He chose to risk his ship and crew to save strangers. He would make that same choice again tomorrow if needed. That was what it meant to be human. That was what it meant to be a defender. The galaxy was safer now because of humans. Raiders thought twice before attacking ships in patrolled sectors. Merchants traveled without. 6 months had passed since the ceremony at Station Harmony. The outer rim of human-patrolled space had become one of the safest regions in the entire Confederation. Raider attacks had virtually disappeared. Merchant ships traveled freely. Trade flourished between dozens of worlds. The human presence had changed everything. Captain Danny Pierce stood on the bridge of the Valiant once more. But today felt different. Today was special. His ship was part of a massive fleet gathering. 20 human vessels surrounded Station Harmony. They represented Earth's full commitment to galactic security. It was the largest deployment of human military forces beyond the home system. The station itself had grown. New modules had been added. Repair facilities now serviced ships from multiple species. Living quarters housed personnel from Earth and a dozen other worlds. The joint training facility was fully operational. Every day, Confederation security forces learned human tactics and strategies. Kate announced an incoming transmission. It was from the Confederation Council itself. Danny told her to put it on screen. The holographic display showed a chamber filled with delegates. Representatives from every major species in the Confederation were present. Ambassador Kelvin stood at the center. He spoke with formal dignity. The Council had called this special session to address humanity's contribution to galactic peace. In just 6 months, the human approach to security had produced remarkable results. Crime rates had dropped across multiple sectors. Trade volume had increased by 40%. Civilian casualties from piracy had fallen to nearly zero in human patrol zones. The ambassador continued speaking. The Council had made a decision. They were offering Earth a permanent seat on the Security Committee. This committee was responsible for maintaining order throughout Confederation space. Humanity would have an equal voice with the oldest and most established species. Danny felt the weight of this announcement. A permanent seat on the security committee was huge. Earth had been part of the Confederation for only 5 years. Most species waited centuries before receiving such an honor. It showed how much respect humanity had earned. Admiral Victoria Green appeared in a second holographic display. She had been listening from Earth. She thanked the Council on behalf of humanity. Earth accepted this responsibility with humility and determination. They would continue to serve the cause of peace and security throughout the galaxy. After the transmission ended, Danny sat quietly in his command chair. Jacob approached him with a thoughtful expression. He pointed out that everything had changed since that day 6 months ago. One decision to answer a distress call had led to all of this. Danny nodded slowly. He had not planned any of this. He had simply done what felt right. He had seen people in danger and responded. Everything else had followed naturally from that single choice. Kate spoke up from her station. She had been monitoring galactic news feeds. Stories about human defenders were everywhere. Some species wrote songs about them. Others made art celebrating human courage. Children across dozens of worlds played games where they pretended to be human space defenders. Alan added that the training facility had a waiting list. Security forces from 30 different species wanted to learn from human instructors. The demand was overwhelming. Earth was sending more trainers every month. Patricia called from engineering with more good news. She had been talking with Confederation engineers. They wanted to collaborate on new ship designs, combining human military technology with alien innovations. The resulting ships would be even more effective at maintaining security. Danny listened to all of this with mixed feelings. He was proud of what humanity had accomplished, but he also felt the burden of expectations. Everyone was looking to humans now, counting on them, depending on them. It was a heavy responsibility. A priority alert interrupted his thoughts. Kate reported a distress signal. A research vessel was under attack. The ship carried scientists from 3 different species. They were studying a distant star system when raiders appeared. Danny asked for the location. Kate gave him the coordinates. It was at the edge of their patrol zone. The Valiant could reach it in 2 hours at maximum speed. Jacob checked tactical data. There were 2 raider vessels. Both were older designs. The research ship had no weapons. It was completely defenseless. Danny made his decision without hesitation. He ordered Kate to alert the nearest human ships. The Defender and Guardian should move to support. He told the helm to set course for the research vessel. Maximum speed. Battle stations. As the Valiant turned and accelerated, Danny realized something important. 6 months ago, he had agonized over the decision to respond. He had worried about regulations and protocols. He had calculated risks. But now the choice was automatic. People needed help. He would respond. That was what humans did. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency. They had done this many times now. Alan prepared weapons. Kate sent reassuring messages to the research vessel. Patricia optimized the engines. Jacob coordinated with the other responding ships. Everyone knew their role. 2 hours passed quickly. The Valiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the research vessel. The scene was familiar. 2 raider ships circled their prey. They were preparing to board and steal whatever they could find. But this time was different. The raiders detected the Valiant immediately. Their reaction was instant. Both raider ships broke off their attack. They turned and fled at maximum speed. They did not even try to fight. Alan reported with satisfaction that both hostiles were retreating. They were running away before the Valiant could even target them. Jacob smiled. Word had definitely spread through the criminal networks. Raiders now knew better than to face human ships. The reputation preceded them. Kate established contact with the research vessel. The scientists were overwhelmed with gratitude. They had thought they were going to die. Then the human ship appeared and the raiders fled immediately. It seemed like a miracle. Danny told them it was not a miracle. It was just humans doing their job. The Valiant would escort them to the nearest safe port. They could complete their journey without fear. As the Valiant took up escort position, Danny reflected on what had just happened. The raiders had fled without firing a shot. That was the ultimate success. Conflicts resolved without violence. Safety maintained through deterrence rather than combat. That was what real security looked like. Over the following weeks, this pattern repeated itself many times. Raiders would approach a target. Human ships would respond. The criminals would flee. Violence became increasingly rare. The human reputation alone was enough to prevent most attacks. Danny received reports from other human captains. Linda Harper reported that her patrol zone had gone an entire month without a single raider sighting. Stephen Price noted that merchant ships were requesting human escorts less often. They felt safe enough to travel alone now. Nina Rodriguez observed that even pirate bases were relocating. They were moving far away from human patrol areas. The change was remarkable. The Outer Rim had transformed from a dangerous frontier into a peaceful region. Trade flourished. Science expeditions explored freely. Colonists settled new worlds without fear. All because humanity had decided to stand up for those who could not defend themselves. One day, Danny received a personal message from Ambassador Kelvin. The Valorian government wanted to invite him to their homeworld. They had completed the Monument of Hope. They wanted Danny to attend the dedication ceremony. Danny accepted the invitation. The Valiant traveled to the Valorian homeworld. The planet was beautiful. Cities of crystal and light covered the surface. The Valorians had built a peaceful civilization focused on art and science. The monument stood in the capital city. It was a massive structure made of the same crystal as the Confederation star. The statue showed a human figure reaching out to help a fallen Valorian. The symbolism was clear and powerful. Thousands of Valorians gathered for the dedication. Their captain, the one Danny had saved, spoke to the crowd. He told the story of that day 6 months ago. How his ship was dying. How he had given up hope. How the human vessel appeared and fought off 3 raiders to save them. The Valorian captain pointed to the monument. He explained that it represented more than just one rescue. It represented a new era in galactic history, an era where the strong protected the weak, where calls for help received answers, where justice prevailed over lawlessness. Danny was asked to speak. He stood before the massive crowd and felt humbled. He told them he was just one human, but he represented all of humanity's values, the belief that everyone deserved safety, the conviction that might should serve right, not the other way around. The simple truth that when someone calls for help, good people answer. He looked at the monument, at the human figure reaching out to help. That image captured something essential about humanity. They were helpers, protectors, defenders of those who could not defend themselves. It was who they had always been, even back on Earth. Now they were bringing that same spirit to the entire galaxy. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence. Then music played. Valorian music was strange and beautiful. It sounded like crystalline bells ringing in harmony. The crowd dispersed slowly, many stopping to touch the monument and reflect on its meaning. That evening, Danny walked through the Valorian capital with his crew. Admiral Victoria Green sat in her office at Terran Fleet Command. The office was located on a space station orbiting Earth. From her window, she could see the beautiful blue curve of her home planet below. She was reviewing intelligence reports when the emergency alert came in. The chime sounded urgent. Victoria touched the control panel on her desk. Commander Ryan Tucker appeared on the holographic display. His face looked serious. Ryan told her they had received an emergency transmission. It was from Captain Danny Pierce aboard the Valiant. The captain had detected a distress signal from a Valorian vessel. The Valorian ship was under attack by raiders. Captain Pierce had diverted his ship to respond. Victoria felt her stomach tighten. She knew Danny Pierce. He was a good officer, one of the best, but he was also young. He was idealistic. Sometimes young officers took risks that more experienced ones would avoid. Victoria asked when the transmission was sent. Ryan checked his data. The message was sent approximately 90 minutes ago. Given the Valiant's position and maximum speed, they should be arriving at the coordinates very soon. Maybe within the hour, Victoria spoke quietly. 1 ship against 3 raiders. Those were not good odds. She told Ryan to get everything they had on raider activity in that sector. She also wanted full information about the Valiant's capabilities. She stood and walked to the window. She looked down at Earth while she thought. Behind her, data streamed across multiple displays as Ryan worked. The Valiant was armed with plasma cannons. It had missile arrays and point defense systems. Its shields were military grade. The armor was reinforced titanium ceramic composite. By human standards, it was a powerful warship. But the galaxy had shown humanity that human standards were not always enough. There were species out there with better technology. There were weapons that could tear through the best human shields. There were dangers that Earth had never imagined. Ryan drew her attention back to the displays. The Confederation had also received the distress signal. The Valorian government was requesting any assistance that Earth could provide. They were asking for help saving their people. Victoria made her decision quickly. She told Ryan to send immediate orders to 3 ships, the Resolute, the Defender, and the Guardian. She wanted all 3 at those coordinates as fast as their engines could carry them. Ryan should also contact the Confederation Embassy. Tell them Earth was responding with additional forces. Ryan acknowledged the orders, but he pointed out that this would strip their outer rim patrols significantly. They would be leaving other areas undefended. Victoria understood the concern, but Captain Pierce had put his life on the line to help their allies. The least Fleet Command could do was back him up. They could not leave him alone out there. She returned to her desk and pulled up personnel files. She looked at the crew of the Valiant. Young faces stared back at her from the screens. Kate Morrison had top marks in xenolinguistics. Jacob Hayes had been decorated for valor during the border conflicts. Alan Brooks was a veteran with real combat experience. Patricia Cole was one of the best engineers in the fleet. They were good people. She hoped they would be enough. She hoped her decision to send reinforcements would not arrive too late. Ryan spoke again. The Confederation ambassador was requesting a direct communication. Victoria straightened her uniform. She told Ryan to put the ambassador through. The holographic display changed. Ambassador Kelvin appeared. He was a tall, slender being. His skin had an iridescent quality that shifted colors slightly. His large eyes looked thoughtful. The Valorians were known for being calm and peaceful, but Victoria could see tension in the ambassador's posture. Ambassador Kelvin spoke formally. He understood that one of Earth's vessels had responded to the distress call. Victoria confirmed this. The Valiant was en route. She was also dispatching 3 more ships to provide support. The ambassador's expression softened slightly. He said humans continued to surprise the Confederation. Most member species would wait for official authorization before committing military forces. Captain Pierce had acted immediately without waiting for permission. Victoria explained a human saying. When someone calls for help, you answer. The paperwork can wait. First you save lives, then you fill out the forms. Kelvin tilted his head in what might have been the Valorian equivalent of a nod. He called it a curious philosophy, but perhaps it was an effective one. The nearest Valorian vessels were 6 hours away. Captain Pierce might be the difference between life and death for 73 Valorian crew members. Victoria promised they would do everything they could. She gave her word on that. The ambassador thanked her and ended the transmission. Ryan provided an update. The Resolute reported they could reach the coordinates in approximately 3 hours. The Defender and Guardian would arrive 45 minutes after that. Victoria told Ryan to keep her updated on all communications from the Valiant. She wanted to know what was happening as soon as information came in. Ryan should also make sure Captain Pierce knew backup was coming. The captain needed to know he was not alone out there. Victoria walked back to the window. She looked down at the blue planet below. That small world had given birth to humanity. For thousands of years, humans had lived and died there, never knowing about the galaxy beyond. They had wondered if they were alone. They had dreamed about meeting other intelligent beings. Now they knew the truth. The galaxy was full of life. There were hundreds of intelligent species. There were peaceful traders and brilliant scientists. There were artists and philosophers. But there were also predators. There were pirates and raiders. There were those who took what they wanted by force. The Confederation had protocols for dealing with raiders. They had legal processes. They tried negotiation and sanctions. Everything was very civilized. But Victoria thought that sometimes civilization needed teeth. Sometimes you needed to show predators that their prey could fight back. Humanity had experience with this. Earth's history was full of conflicts. Humans had fought each other for resources, for territory, for survival. They had learned hard lessons about war and peace. They had developed weapons and tactics over thousands of years. Now they were bringing that knowledge to the stars. Some alien species called Earth a death world. They said the heavy gravity made humans strong. They said the dangerous predators made humans cautious. They said the violent weather made humans adaptable. To them, Earth seemed like a nightmare planet. They could not understand how any species survived there, let alone built a civilization. But Victoria thought maybe that was exactly what the galaxy needed right now. Maybe the Confederation needed a species that understood danger, a species that knew how to fight when necessary, a species that did not back down from threats. The communication alert sounded again. Victoria turned from the window. Ryan's face appeared on the display. He looked relieved. Ryan reported that they had received a transmission from the Valiant. The ship had engaged the raiders. 2 enemy vessels were destroyed or disabled. The third had retreated. The Valorian ship was safe. All Valorian crew members were alive. Victoria felt relief wash over her. She asked about casualties on the Valiant. Ryan checked his data. Minor damage to shields. No hull breaches. No injuries to crew members. The Valiant had won decisively. Victoria allowed herself a smile. Captain Pierce had done it. He had saved those people. And he had done it without losing anyone under his command. That was the best possible outcome. But Victoria also understood something else. This engagement would have consequences. Word would spread through the galaxy. Raiders would learn that human ships fought back hard. Merchant vessels would request human escorts. Other species would want Earth's protection. Humanity was stepping into a new role. They were becoming the galaxy's defenders. They were becoming the ones that others called when they needed help. It was a big responsibility. It would change how the galaxy saw humans. Victoria thought about the future. Earth would need more ships. They would need more trained crews. They would need bases and supply stations throughout the galaxy. The military budget would have to increase significantly, but it would be worth it. Humanity would gain influence and respect. They would build stronger relationships with other species. They would help make the galaxy safer for everyone. Victoria told Ryan to prepare a full report for Earth's government. They needed to understand what had happened today. They needed to understand what it meant for humanity's future in the galaxy. She also told him to prepare commendations for Captain Pierce and his crew. They had done something remarkable today. They deserved recognition for their courage and skill. As Ryan worked on the reports, Victoria looked out at the stars once more. Humanity had taken another step into the galaxy today. They had shown who they were and what they stood for. They had proven they were more than just another species. They were allies worth having. They were defenders worth calling. The galaxy was learning about humanity, and the lesson was clear. When humans heard a call for help, they answered. No matter the risk, no matter the cost, that was who they were. That was what made them special.